Hi, Commander John here, and no, this is not a walking video, this is a cooking video. Every year I make up these things called Butterscotch Bars, and so I thought finally I will share my secrets, everything I do involved with making them, and putting it out there in YouTube land, that way other people can try it out. Now before we get started, this recipe is not my own recipe, it comes from this wonderful book called the Better Homes and Gardens Cookbook. So, actually, the Better Homes and Garden New Cookbook. So, this cookbook does not have a publication date in the front of it, so I can't say what year this was published. So, according to my quick research online, between 1953 and 1962-63 is probably where this edition lies. This came from one of my grandmothers, and I will post the recipe that we're doing right now. Now that you've stared at that recipe, I'm a firm believer of if I'm going to put some effort into something, I don't want to waste my time. So I always double up on the batches. So what you see before you right now, besides the cookbook, is everything that you're going to need to make this recipe. First of all, you're going to need 2 sticks of butter. The original recipe calls for 1. This is 28 ounces of brown sugar. More about that in a moment. This is 8 ounces of coconut, and then 8 1/4 ounces of pecans. This is 22.5 ounces of all-purpose flour, 4 tablespoons of baking powder, and a teaspoon or half teaspoon of salt. And usually I put in about 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Actually, with this stuff here, you only need 2, but I make my own vanilla extract. No, this is not a bottle of beer. This is actually extract I make my own, and it's almost at the end of the bottle because it's the end of the season. And so all these ingredients go into making butterscotch. Hi, let's go ahead and go through the hardware requirements for making butterscotch bars. So you will need a saucepan of some sort. I have 2 different sizes here. Definitely get a silicone spatula of some sort, that way you can stir this up. I would not recommend a wooden spoon because it's going to stick to it. Also, using a metal spoon, you will burn yourself because this will get extremely hot. This gets above boiling temperature when you get this sugar mixture and butter cooking on the stove. The next piece of hardware you'll need is some metal bowls. So these are, I believe, are 1-quart bowls. All this brown sugar and butter will fit in one of these bowls, believe it or not. I like these metal bowls because they'll whip the heat away pretty quickly. And also when I'm taking it out and need to get the butterscotch mixture out of these bowls, I just flex it a little bit and pops right out. Next piece of hardware here, we'll talk about this in a second, is a mat and one of these suckers. So you'll see later in the production, I'm going to take this hot mixture out of the bowl, put it here. I need to break it up into smaller pieces. This makes it really easy to cut it up into smaller pieces before I put it in the stand mixer here. But you can use a knife or other instruments. However, the problem is the effectiveness of these instruments and how dangerous it gets to be, right? So that's this piece right here. You'll see that more later. Finally, stand mixer. Stand mixer, once again, is not required. You can use a bowl and a hand mixer. However, I find this makes it really easy to take the brown sugar and butter mixture chunks and put it here and break it up into a very small, consistent particle size. And it basically beats it up with a paddle attachment relatively easy. Now on to baking. So I have several different things here. Let's just go ahead and go through these. First of all, these are jelly loaf pans here, and you'll need 2 of these for this recipe. You'll take the butterscotch bar mixture and you'll split it between the 2 pans. Of course, these pans and these muffin tins, you will of course grease them with some shortening, but then this is invaluable because this will allow you to spread the mixture out evenly across the pan. Yes, you can use your hands, but what I find out is it just takes forever. So there's that piece right here. You can also use some muffin tins. You will need 3 muffin tins plus 1 number 20. See here, yep, number 20 scooper. Is that what it is? I'll let you look at it. Yeah, I think it's number 20. Yep, it is. And so this will allow you to fill up 2 entire tins plus I think 2/3 of a third one. So that's what this is for. This makes it really easy, so you don't have to worry spend about all this time trying to get it even in one of these things. Or lastly, you can use a cookie tray. So the cookie trays, a cookie pan, you'll need a number 30 disher to get these portioned out correctly. As you can see, you can get 12 cookies on this tray. I am very partial to the silicone because it makes it clean up a lot easier, it makes it much more consistent, and also you can see where you need to land your dough. Or use some parchment paper. I have stopped baking directly on the cookie sheets a long time ago. It just makes things a lot easier and much more controllable. So that's with the baking side of the equation. Okay, folks, as you can see right here, the butter is definitely on the melty side. I'm turning the heat back down here for a little bit. I take the butterscotch bar mixture. I take the brown sugar and I add it to the butter here. So I just go ahead and do that right now, carefully adding it in. Don't want to slap myself with the hot butter. And right now, if it's gurgling like that, that means the butter is coming up to be above the boiling point of water. So just be aware. And as you can see, I'm adding it in here. And I'm being kind of careful adding everything. And then here comes the other form of brown sugar. Okay, now I've incorporated all that brown sugar and butter together and got it partially mixed together here. And as you can see, it's starting to cook. I have a little bit of time before the temperatures start climbing. I will go ahead and I will back that down. And I'll flip my attention over here to the other pot. Now, as you can see, that's what it kind of looks like before you mix it up. And I will go ahead and proceed to mix that up now. Just, as you can see, just, sweeping, mixing here. And just getting all this integrated together. Okay, I'm just going to give you a quick shot. So this is starting to come together nicely. You can see how it's kind of integrating. It's becoming more and more like candy. You see that lighter brown kind of coming up there? I'll put it back on the heat here. As it comes up to that lighter brown, then you know that it's cooking down. It's becoming more like candy than just, brown sugar and butter mixed together. And that's what we want, is we want that to happen, because that caramelization, that candy making process is what gives this mixture its flavor. And I'm going to switch over here now and stir this one a little bit. And you'll notice I missed it here, but you can see here, as you just let it sit here and cook, the butter will naturally start coming up to the surface. So let me stir that. Now, we've been cooking this for a bit. Now you see how this brown is kind of forming here on the edge. Just to remind you, you do not leave this on the stove. You do not go off and you go use the bathroom. You don't go off and see what your kid's doing in the other room. You want to be on top of this. You can turn this down to a low temperature, a really, really low temperature, to go and quickly check on something, I guess. But once again, you're making candy. If you ever make candy, you don't turn your back to it, like the ocean. You never turn your back to the ocean, you never turn your back to kids, and you never turn your back to candy. So also, once again, I'll show you this as this heats up over here. As you can see, that is some butter coming to the surface here. So let's go ahead and put this back over here. Make sure we're good to go. Yeah, you can still see me. And you can see that. See how that's nice and bubbly around the edge here? So I'm going to keep stirring this. And you can see it's creating bubbles. So this is what we want. We are almost there, or I'm almost there, or we're almost there. And next thing you'll see is me pouring this sucker into the bowl. All right, here we go. This is what it looks like coming in right now. I would like to remind you, this is napalm. This stuff will burn you. You have little ones afoot, and you trip on them, and you spill this on them or yourself or the floor or the dog or the cat. It will not be a nice day. It will be a very painful day. It will be a very agonizing day. It will be a day that maybe the authorities will come get you if you've done something really terrible and bad. that's it. And usually I'll scrape the bowl. I won't do that for you in front of you, but you can see right then and there just how gurgly and hot this stuff is. I can't even stress to tell you how hot that is. You don't want to touch it. You want to do anything. That's the reason why it's on this metal rack and everything else. So we're finished with this part of the operation. I've taken about 15-20 minutes off, and you can see right now this stuff has already started to cool. A very good sign you've made it correctly is it kind of sinks in like this. You see how originally it was all bubbly up, now it's kind of sinking down? That's because it's all cooling and congealing here, or just cooling off. It forms this kind of crater here, which is really perfect. Now, right now I can touch this with my fingers a little bit, but if I was to grab this, I'd burn myself again, because this is still really, really hot. That's the reason why I use the metal bowls. This cooling rack lets this stuff cool much more expediently. Now, you can use maybe a Pyrex bowl, but once again, the problem with that is once this is all cool, it's really hard to get it out. So metal bowls is really the way to go. I would not use plastic of any sort. You could probably use a silicone bowl if it's rated for candy making, but definitely the metal is my friend. Okay, it's the next day. This is what it looks like after I've wrapped it and put it in the refrigerator. This butterscotch bar mixture stuff, you can leave this in the refrigerator for several days to several weeks. It doesn't matter as long as it's wrapped up. It keeps whatever residual moisture in here. I'm undoing it. I left this out on the counter this morning for a couple hours to kind of warm up. And as you can see, it's pretty, with this thing, pretty hard. So what you want to do is you want to take this, turn it upside down like that, and just flex the bowl a little bit, and it pops right out. And you can see most of it comes out. This is actually fun, because if you want to lick this or taste this, you can taste the butter and the sugar in this. So you're done with this basically. And the next step is you want to break this up. Now, the more this comes up to room temperature, the easier this is. Now, you can see by my mat here, this is another different mat. But this has been abused, and you can see all these little holes is because I've been pounding this. So I just take the instrument here and just start going through it here. Actually, go your direction here. So you can see it breaks it up. Now you notice the texture of this is come back. So it seems like it hasn't fully become candy where it's this hard candy. I'm guessing is that the fat in the butter keeps everything separated, but you wind up having this lovely mixture here. And this is where this tool comes in handy. And this is the reason why you have to be careful, because if you're using a knife or something like that, or an ice pick, you can easily hurt yourself. That's why this tool is very important. So at this point, as you can see, I'm busting this up and going down and getting to the end of it here. And the more you can break this apart, the better. One thing you can do is take these chunks. If they're at room temperature, you can try putting them into a Ziploc bag and bashing it with a rolling pin or something like that. So that will help. And now all this will go into the stand mixer. And as you can see, I have my butterscotch mixture in here. It's been sitting in the mixer here for about another hour or so after I've broken it up. And it's also a good way for you to have the additional pieces warm up too. And then here's the rest of the ingredients all queued up right here. This is the flour that I have sifted with this, with the scoop ready to go. Get this out of the way. There is our coconut and pecan mixture right here. This right here is 4 eggs. I didn't mention that earlier, so you need 4 room temperature eggs. And also your vanilla extract, which this recipe I believe calls for 1 teaspoon per single batch, but I'm doing double batch, so I'm using 2 teaspoons. And I usually use an extra teaspoon because this is the vanilla I make myself. So let's go ahead and get this turned on. Oh, it'll help if I plug it in. Here we go. Plug this sucker in there and turn it on. Now you notice it's gonna clunk a little bit, so you want to use it at low speed, and don't worry about these chunks, because what's going to happen just through the agitation of it going through this, it's going to gradually work these down. So when we come back, you'll see what this looks like after it breaks down after about a couple of minutes in the mixing bowl. So I have the stove on preheat to 355. And I've been letting this run for about 4 or 5 minutes. And you can see it's pretty much broken up pretty well. Then I also kicked up a little to a higher speed like this to make sure I don't hear a lot of clunking. Because if I hear a lot of clunking, then that means there's larger pieces that still need to be broken up. And so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add the eggs one at a time here. There you go. Get all that goodness in there. And now you see it's mixing up nicely. And let this go for a few minutes. Now you notice it's coming together nicely here. It's lightened up in color. And I'm going to turn it off here because we're going to add the coconut. You'll notice in the bowl here, there's little nuggets. Those are little nuggets of that brown sugar and butter mixture. Those will further break apart, but that's kind of the nice thing about this bar because you get these little nuggets of flavor in there. So we'll go ahead and add the coconut to us. And here we go. And we turn it back on. And I add my coconut at this stage because I think that's what the recipe calls for. But this allows this to integrate without integrating the flour, which will be the last thing we'll put in along with the vanilla. Now I've added the flour. Now some people will add the flour gradually, but I like doing it this way. And this is my vanilla extract, so I kind of swirl it around and get all the dissolved particles out of there. And there's a little more left in there, I won't worry about that. So here we go. Then I gradually bring this up. And you really want to get this fully incorporated. And you'll go ahead, and I will not show you this, but I'm going to scrape the bottom of the bowl once or twice to make sure it's fully integrated. Okay, it's time for the dishing part of it. This is a completed batch of the dough. As you can see, it's nice. It's a little bit sticky here. That's the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and set you right here so you can see me do this. So all you really have to do is just go in here and just take this number 20 disher and just put a dollop in each one of these. And I won't worry with that. So come back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm done dishing up my 2 dozen here, and into the oven they go. 1 and 2, and close the door and hit the timer. The recipe calls for, I think, 25 minutes worth of baking, where you spin the pans once in that process. So 12 minutes for me works out perfectly. By the time I get to it, spin it, put it back in there, it's good to go. Okay, we're done here, and I've already spun it once, and this is what they look like. And 2. And you notice that they're nice and crispy around the edge here. And so you want to leave these in the tray to cool down for probably 15-20 minutes, and we're going to pop them out with a rubber spatula or a plastic spatula at that point in time. Those look absolutely scrumptious. Okay, we're done with the baking and we're done with the cooling here. These have cooled for approximately 24 plus 11, 12, about 36, 38 minutes here. Pretty good. And our yield is, for a double batch, almost 3 dozen muffins here, or 3 dozen of these little butterscotch bars. Well, technically they're like a muffin or something else, but let's show you how these are going to be hand now. So I take this spatula thing, just kind of get it in there, work it around, and it pops right out. Okay, let's try the second tray now. Here, do a little banging. Yeah, much better method to get these out. I don't really want to get the tool to get them in there, to get them out, so those are coming out real nicely. Let's see. All right. Almost is free from the muffin tin. All right, do this one more. Another one. Those are ornery, so let's go ahead and just touch this up. That popped right out. And this one right here. There we go. All right. There you go. That's how you depan them. Well, I am done with this phase of the project. So that's how I take the butterscotch bars mixture and make these like muffin things out of it, because this is actually a really good way of making them. I showed you a couple techniques how I got them out of the tray. I think using that little spatula thing is kind of a little bit wonky. I forgot the fact I had to pound them a little bit, but for the most part, even though these kind of broke up a little bit here, they've set up nicely though, so I got them out of the tray correctly, and they're the perfect color and consistency. And you can see in the bottom here all that caramelization there from baking in the tin, and that's what people really like, and that's part of the greatness of the taste is these on the outside. That's it for right now. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the traditional way of making butterscotch bars, which is actually using trays. Here, so we have another batch of butterscotch bar mixture here, and I've done this often enough where I know that the scale here, it's about 38 to 40 ounces per batch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start dividing this up between this one and this one, and I'll let you watch me do that. And my goal is to get it kind of near 38 on both sides. So go ahead and scoop some of this out. Okay, so what I usually do is I take a rubber glove like this. You could put a little bit of flour on it. You may or may not need to do that, but I just go ahead and start smooshing it down in the pan with my fingertips. Now this does, as you can see, move quite easily. And the goal here is, not for me at least, with my other tool, is not to get this all the way spread out in the pan. And you can see it's kind of getting kind of sticky here on me a little bit, so I'm gonna put a little bit of flour. You can't see me. Put a little flour in my hand. More about that in a few moments. But you can see, I just need to get it close. Now, I have one of these pizza roller things, and what I do is, as you can see here, I just put some of the flour on a tray like this, and I roll it kind of like this to get this thing coated, and then come back over here to the pan. And so at this point, this makes getting the bars done really easy, because it is a little bit sticky. So I go back and forth, put some more flour on here, and kind of roll it out. And you gotta kind of eyeball this as you do this, and you get used to it. This batch of butterscotch bars is a little stickier than normal, but if it's a little drier, it makes it much easier. And as you can see, I'm rolling it out. Then I take my finger, kind of presses down here, because this does kind of work up on the edges here a little bit. And I try to get in the corners. And that's all she wrote. That's it. That's all you need to do. Okay, we're all set. Here's what the butterscotch bars look like. All flattened out. And this stuff will flatten out even more as it's baking. I don't say it liquefies, but it just, when it bakes, it kind of spreads out a little bit. And now, set the old timer to 12 minutes. And what's gonna happen is when the timer goes off, I'll come out and I'll flip the pans top to bottom and turn them around 180. That way it gives even baking here in the oven. So let's take a look in a few minutes what this lovely stuff looks like when it's all finished. Okay, we're all done here. And let's take a look at them. Oh, don't these look beautiful? That is the perfect color and consistency. Turn the oven off. And as you can see, they make this nice brown color around the edge here. And here, they're not exactly 100% level, but that's kind of the nice thing about this. So the next step in this journey is, once these are fully cooled, is to depan them and cut them up. Okay, it's been several hours since I took this out of the oven, and it should be really cold, room temperature to the touch. You really want to get one of these really narrow spatula thingies, and you want to go down the sides, right? And the reason why you want to do that is you just want to free this up. Now, if you've used enough vegetable shortening to kind of grease the pan, it will make things a lot easier to depan it. You could try cutting it up in the pan, but at that point you're just messing up the non-stick surface on the pan. So once you do that, just turn it upside down and do that. And it's just, as you can see, I used enough shortening, so there's not a lot of cling left here. You should never try to depan this while it's warm, because it hasn't had time to set up. And you can see it's just one ginormous butterscotch bar. And the first thing I do is kind of eyeball it and cut it down the center here. And I'm using a pizza cutter. You can use a knife, but I find a pizza cutter probably works the best. And I don't try to be anal about cutting this up exactly correctly. That's part of the joy of this. But this pan is 12.5 inches wide, or long, I guess. And so I just kind of eyeball about, 4 and an eighth of an inch here, and kind of come back over here and do another 4 1/8 inch here. And just, that's it. That's all she wrote. That's all you need to do now. Just bag them up. And after they've been bagged, they should be fine. You will notice that there's a little bit of wetness here, or it looks like it hasn't fully cooked. This is the way it's supposed to be. I'll bring it up closer. That little bit of dampness there, that will go away, because the moisture will start redistributing to the bar, and it will last for a couple weeks in the bag. I've shipped these out throughout the whole world, but you open it up and you enjoy. So that's it for it. This is how you make the infamous butterscotch bars that I send out every year for Christmas. So I'll talk to you folks later.